Hello again. I'm so sorry I've been away so long. I got an editing program, and it is amazing. I have absolutely no idea how to use it. Thank goodness my cameraman came back, because they also have no idea how to use it. So, until we can figure out how to do cuts and blends and dissolves and green screens and motion capture and, make it so our videos don't suck, I thought I might read you a story. Today I will read to you Snow White, a story of a beautiful underage princess, an abusive and homicidal stepmother, and an absent father, not to mention a necrophiliac into Did I read that right? Oh. All right. Once upon a time, in the middle of winter, when snowflakes were falling like feathers from the sky, a queen was sitting and sewing at a window with a black ebony frame. And as she was sewing and looking out the window, she pricked her finger with the needle, and 3 drops of blood fell on the snow. What was she doing sitting by an open window during a snowstorm? That is a very silly thing to do. Anyway, the red looked so beautiful on the white snow that she thought to herself, if only I had a child with skin as white as snow, lips as red as blood, and hair as black as ebony. She wanted to give birth to Dracula? I'm beginning to doubt this woman's sanity. Soon after, she gave birth to a little daughter who was as white as snow, as red as blood, with hair as black as ebony. Accordingly, she was called Snow White. What is this abomination? Is it dead? Sorry, I digress. And right after she was born, the queen died. Well, she did sit by open windows during snowstorms. I tell you, never be a parent in a fairy tale. It is very bad for your health. Moving on. When a year had passed, the king married another woman who was so beautiful and proud and haughty and could not tolerate anyone else who might rival her beauty. And then, king, not appearing in this tale, exited. I mean, he doesn't even die or go to war or something. He's just like, I made the kid, my job is done. Oh, sorry. The new queen had a magic mirror, and she often stood in front of it, looked at herself, and said, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this realm is the fairest of all?" Does that seem wordy to you? I mean, I feel like it was different when I heard it before. Sorry. The mirror would answer, "You, my queen, are the fairest of all." Good thing she was a queen, or that would make no sense. Sorry, back to the story. That reply would make her content, for she knew the mirror always told the truth. In the meantime, Snow White grew up and became more and more beautiful. By the time she was 7 years old, she was as beautiful as the day is clear, and more beautiful than the queen herself. One day, when the queen asked her mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this realm is the fairest of them all?" the mirror answered, "You, my queen, have a beauty quite rare, but Snow White is 1,000 times more fair." Wait. 7? 7? She is jealous of a first grader? Did I read that correctly? This is a children's story. Wait. I need to calm down. I've seen the movies. This is the part where she forces the girl to dress in rags and work. That way, the time can pass and Snow White is a better age. I just need to be patient. All right. From that hour on, her hate for the girl was so great that her heart throbbed and turned in her breast each time she saw Snow White. Like weeds, the envy and arrogance grew so dense in her heart that she no longer had any peace day or night. Finally, she summoned a huntsman and said, "Take the child." She's still a child? No years passed or anything? We are talking about maybe an 8-year-old at this point? I mean, Kristen Stewart was in her late 20s when she was traipsing around the woods with Chris Hemsworth. I feel like I've been lied to. I have to keep going to see how bad this gets. Take the child into the forest. I never want to lay eyes on her again. You are going to kill her and bring me back her lungs and liver as proof of your deed. Okay, gross. The huntsman obeyed and led Snow White out into the forest. He didn't stop and maybe check with the king, something along the lines of, Your Majesty, mind if I kill your daughter? Wow, just wow. But when he drew his hunting knife and was about to stab Snow White's innocent heart, she began to weep and said, Oh, dear huntsman, spare my life, and I'll run into the wild forest and never come home again, since she was so beautiful. Am I the only one who remembers she's 7? The huntsman took pity on her and said, You're free to go, my poor child. Then he thought the wild beasts will soon eat her up. Nevertheless, he felt as if a great weight had been lifted off his mind because he did not have to kill her. Just then a young boar came dashing by the huntsman, and he stabbed it to death. He took out the lungs and liver and brought them to the queen as proof that the child was dead. The cook was ordered to boil them in salt, and the wicked woman ate them. As she thought she had eaten Snow White's lungs and liver. This is a children's story! Right. Meanwhile, the poor child was alone in a huge forest. She began to run, and she ran over sharp stones and through bushes and wild beasts, and this goes on for a while. She gets to a house. There's tiny stuff in it, and oh, did you know that she didn't even clean the house? It was already clean. All right, so she gets to the house, she pulled a Goldilocks, walks in, finds beds, finds one that fits, says her prayers, and fell asleep. I feel as though I've never actually heard this story. Moving right along, the dwarves come home. 7 everything, a Who's Been Goldilocks rehash. I can see why Walt changed it. They find Snow White and, oh my lord, they exclaim, what a beautiful child. They were so delirious with joy that they did not wake her up. Instead, they let her sleep in the bed while the 7th dwarf spent an hour in each one of his... You know what, we're just going to move along. In the morning, Snow White awoke, and when she saw the 7 little men, she was frightened. But they were friendly and asked, What's your name? My name is Snow White, she replied. What brought you to our house? The dwarves continued. She read them the beginning of the story. All right, so let's just keep going. The dwarf said, if you'll keep house for us, cook, make the beds, wash, sew, knit, you can stay with us and we'll provide you with everything you need, and it better be decent pay and a medical package. This is child labor, you know. Yes, agreed Snow White, with all my heart. So she stayed, and she kept their house in order, and this is not disturbing at all. In the morning, they went to the mountains to search for minerals and gold. In the evening, they returned, and their dinner was ready. During the day, Snow White was alone, and the good dwarves... Good. Really? Good? You describe them as good? Made sure to caution her. Beware of your stepmother, they said. She'll soon know that you're here. Don't let anybody in. Since the queen believed she had eaten Snow White's liver and lungs, she was totally convinced that she was again the most beautiful woman in the realm, but apparently she still went to her mirror and said, Mirror, mirror on the wall, who in this realm is the fairest of all? The mirror answered, You, my queen, may have beauty quite rare, but beyond the mountains, where the 7 dwarves dwell, Snow White is thriving, and this I must tell. Within this realm she's still 1,000 times more fair. Tattletale. The queen was horrified, for she knew the mirror never lied, which meant that the huntsman had deceived her, and Snow White was still alive. Once more, she began plotting ways to kill her. Well, we are still talking about a 7-year-old? Yes, there's no years past. The years were kind to Snow White. She turned 16 something! Finally, she thought of a plan. She painted her face, dressed as an old peddler woman so nobody could recognize her. Then she crossed the 7 mountains in disguise and arrived at the cottage of the 7 dwarves, where she knocked at the door and cried out, Pretty wares for sale, pretty wares. Snow White looked out the window and called out, "Good day, dear woman. What do you have for sale?" "Nice and pretty things, straight laces in all kinds of colors," she replied, and took out a lace of woven silk of many different colors. Wait, I thought it was an apple. Didn't you think it was an apple? It's an apple, right? Huh. Is she planning to maybe strangle her with the ribbon? All right. "My goodness, child, what a sight you are," said the old woman. "Come, I'll lace you up properly for once." Snow White did not suspect anything as she stood in front of the old woman and let herself be laced with this new stay lace. What is a stay lace? Does it say? Never mind. However, the old woman laced her so quickly and tightly that Snow White lost her breath and fell down as if dead. Wait, Snow White was killed by corset? I do not remember that in the cartoon. "Well, you used to be the fairest in the realm, but no more," the queen said, and rushed off. You know, her one-liners are not as good as Arnold Schwarzenegger's. Not long after, the dwarves came home. When they saw their dear Snow White lying on the ground, they were horrified. She neither stirred nor moved and seemed to be dead. They lifted her up and saw that she was laced too tightly. They cut the stay lace in two. At once she began to breathe a little, and after a while she had fully revived. The old peddler woman was none other than the wicked queen. Dun, dun, dun. Beware, don't let anyone in when we're not with you. All right, let's move this along. Queen goes home, mirror tattles again. Queen freaks out, dresses as a peddler, goes mountain climbing again. Pretty wares for sales, pretty wares, and the dolt falls for it again. So, apparently this time the queen made a poison comb, and the comb pleased the girl so much that she let herself be carried away and opened the door. After they agreed on the price, the old woman said, "Now I'll give you a proper combing for once." Poor Snow White did not give a second thought and let the woman do as she wished. But no sooner did the comb touch her hair than the poison began to take effect, and the maiden fell to the ground and lay there unconscious. "You paragon of beauty," said the wicked queen, "now you're finished." Seems like maybe this time you should make sure the kid is dead before you start gloating. When the dwarves arrived and saw Snow White lying on the ground as if she were dead, they immediately suspected the stepmother and began looking around. As soon as they found the poison comb, they took it out, and Snow White instantly regained consciousness. That's not how poison works. She told them everything, and they warned her again to be on her guard, and I have an idea. Maybe one of the adults can stay with the 7-year-old. Once again, the mirror tattles, and when the queen heard, she trembled with rage. "Snow White shall die," she explained, "even if it costs me my life." Then she went into the secret chamber and made a deadly poisonous apple. On the outside it looked beautiful, white, with red cheeks. Anyone who saw it would be enticed, but whoever took a bite was bound to die. Okay, back to the peddler's garb, back across the mountain. Look at my cool stuff. Snow White's still an idiot. All right, but no, I can't take anything from strangers, she says. Ooh, Snow White may have learned a lesson. "That's all right," answered the disguised queen. "I'll give you one of my apples as a gift." "No," said Snow White, "I am not allowed." "Are you afraid it might be poisoned?" Said the old woman. "Look, I'll cut the apple in two. You eat the red part, and I'll eat the white." However, the apple had been made with such cunning that only the red part was poisoned. Snow White was eager to eat the beautiful apple, and when she saw the peasant woman eating her half, she could no longer resist. She stretched out her hand, took the poisoned half, and no sooner did she take a bite than she fell on the ground, dead! Cue Queen making pithy, "Now you're dead" comment and going home. This time, however, when she asked her mirror the normal questions, it replied, "You, my queen, are fairest of all." And the queen was happy. Well, that's nice for her. No more mountain climbing to kill children. Well, the dwarves came home, found Snow White dead. There was no breath coming from her lips, and they lifted her up and looked to see if they could find something poisonous. They unlaced her. Moving on. Looked for combs. Apparently washed her with wine. Why would they wash her with wine? Who wrote this story? Then they cried for 3 days, but after 3 whole days she still looked so alive and had such pretty red cheeks they said, we can't possibly bury her in the dingy ground. Instead they made a transparent glass coffin so that she could be seen from all sides. That is so disturbing. Snow White lay in a coffin for many years. Oh, there's the many years, but she's still 7 because it's not like she's growing older. Indeed, she seemed to be sleeping, for she was still as white as snow, as red as blood, with hair as black as ebony. I knew she was a vampire. Now it happened that the prince came into the forest one day, and when he arrived at the dwarf's cottage, he apparently just walked inside too. Boy, people take welcome mats way too seriously in fairy tales. When he saw the coffin with beautiful Snow White inside, he said to the dwarves, "Let me have the coffin and I'll pay you whatever you want." But the dwarves answered, "We won't give her up for all the gold in the world." "Then give her to me as a gift," he said, "for I can't go on living without being able to see Snow White. I'll honor and cherish her as my dearly beloved." 7! And dead! Since he spoke with such fever, the good dwarves took pity on him and gave him the coffin. Wow. Seriously? The prince ordered his servants to carry the coffin on their shoulders, but they stumbled over some shrubs, and the jolt caused the poisonous piece of apple that Snow White had bitten off to be released from her throat. It was not long before she opened her eyes, lifted the lid of the coffin, sat up, and was alive again. Good thing that's not creepy at all. The prince rejoiced and told her what had happened, then added, "I love you more than anything else in the world. Come with me and go to my father's castle. I want you to be my wife." "7!" Snow White felt that he was sincere, so she went with him, and their wedding was celebrated with great pomp and splendor. Now, Snow White's stepmother had also been invited to the wedding, and after she had dressed herself in beautiful clothes, she went to the wedding. When she entered the hall, she recognized Snow White. The evil queen was petrified with fright that she could not budge. Iron slippers had already been heated over a fire, and they brought over to her with tongs. Finally, she had to put on the red-hot slippers and dance until she fell down dead. Walt Disney lied to me! Also 7! At least there was no non-consensual kiss with the underage corpse. We can take comfort in that, friends. Well, thank you for going on this soul-crushing, childhood-ruining adventure with me. I have a whole book of 242 tales as scribed by the Grimm brothers. Grim indeed. I tell you what, dear friends, if you would like to hear more of these, please leave a comment and like or something so we can do this torture again sometime. And until I once again open this book of horrors, I am your friend, Artie.